This segment is out of order.
When people think of cemeteries, they generally think of quiet, peaceful expanses. But in Denver, Colorado, cemeteries also hold some very cool secrets about the city and its people. Here's some things we bet you didn't know about Denver cemeteries. The very first cemetery in Denver is no longer recognizable as a cemetery at all. The land now known as Cheeseman Park was used as an Arapaho Indian burial ground, well before any settlers arrived. Then the city of Denver began to use the site as well.
General Larimer and his son rode across the Platte River, rode up the highest hill way outside of town and said every great city has to have a cemetery. So he platted that as the Mount Prospect Cemetery. That was the original cemetery for Denver, and it was the Protestants, the Catholics, the Jews, the Chinese, everyone was buried up there. And slowly the city begins moving bodies out of there as that becomes desirable real estate. And the city also decides to plant Cheeseman Park there.
The city only gave families a limited time to move their loved ones' remains to new locations. When that time elapsed, they simply removed the stones and turned it into one of Denver's most popular parks. Approximately 4,200 bodies still lie in Cheeseman Park.
If your dog ever starts digging in Cheeseman Park, watch out for what bones it digs up.
Colorado's oldest operating cemetery is Riverside Cemetery, located near Brighton Boulevard. It holds some of Colorado's most famous names, names that now have counties or mountains named after them.
It does have the most fascinating markers. Of course, Evans, his tomb actually overlooks Mount Evans, so you're looking at his stone and you're also seeing Mount Evans, which is the ultimate monument for somebody, a 14,000-foot peak.
And some names you may have not heard of, like Clara Brown, the first African-American woman to live in Colorado, and Silas Sewell, a soldier who refused to take part in the Sand Creek Massacre. Riverside became an early victim of industrialization, as the arrival of the Burlington Railroad made other cemeteries far more attractive.
Fairmount opens in 1890. It's in fashionable southeast Denver. That becomes the industrial part of the city where the stockyards are and the smelters are, and it's the wrong side of the tracks. It's the industrial immigrant area of Denver, and other people who were worried, even death, about not being in the right neighborhood have their monuments moved. Whether they actually had the bodies moved too is another question.
Many people see this next cemetery every day without realizing it's a cemetery. The Mount Lindo Cross is visible on a clear night throughout the metro area. At nearly 400 feet high, it's the largest lighted cross in the United States. The cross was built by Francis Vandenberg as a monument for his deceased father that his mother could see from her Denver neighborhood. But the site is also a cemetery with one of the best views of Denver. Mount Olivet Cemetery is the final resting place for two of Colorado's long-lost celebrities, astronaut and Congressman Jack Swigert and Baby Doe Tabor.
Yeah, Jack Swigert, who was the other Coloradan in the Statuary Hall of Fame in Washington, D.C., the great astronaut, who had just been elected to Congress and died before he could take office. And Horace Tabor and Baby Doe are buried there in a connubial tomb together at last after being separated. He died in 1898 at the Windsor Hotel. She doesn't die until 37 years later up in Leadville, up there all by herself doing her penance, living as a hermit in the shack of the Matchless Mind.
If Crown Hill Cemetery weren't a cemetery, it would be an art gallery. This statue of Our Lady of Guadalupe is made from marble from the same quarry that gave us Michelangelo's David. And instead of unsightly trash cans, many of these faux bois exist here at Crown Hill, making the site much more natural.
All the cemeteries are impressive if you're interested in art or architecture, where people try to express their grief with a beautiful piece of sculpture or beautiful carving or this or that.
Cemeteries may be where our loved ones rest in peace for eternity, but the character and history of Colorado is still alive and well in these solemn fields, and they will continue to hold a key part of our collective spirit for generations to come.
You may return to your broadcast.